specialize in music most people hear. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, Instagram, and our website. Let us share the noise with you.
Yo, this is John from Noise Dosage Media, and this episode is brought to you by Begrudgingly Benny. Interested in putting something horrific and grotesque on your next piece of merch? Benny is tucked away in the fiery depths of COVID quarantine, blasting the filthiest of old school death metal and drawing hideous creatures that he is waiting for you to adopt. Go over to Instagram and follow @BegrudginglyBenny and contact him if you would like some really weird original art for your band or label. Super professional, highly recommended. 2 albums each. What really brought you into it?
No, for me, it was definitely like Sepultura, Morbid Visions, like Possessed, Seven Churches. There's so many. It's like those are the first 2 that ramble off. But I mean, there's just, you guys go ahead. I mean, there's like Creator, Destruction,
oh my
stuff
goodness,
like that.
yeah.
I
wouldn't know where to start.
Stuff, all the early
All the
stuff.
same stuff.
Yeah, Merciful Fate. Yeah. Oh, I just listened to Season of the Dead the other night.
Season of the Dead.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Classic
Scream,
record.
Bloody Gore, Morbid Visions, like Bob said.
Yes.
I think for all 3 of us, we could agree on all those 4 rounds.
And like
Three?
the earlier, like Creator and Destruction, those.
Oh yeah.
Those are just.
Well, yeah.
All the stuff to us was like that. It was all encompassed what we were, interested in trying to shoot for. Like, it was just like to us, we heard that stuff and we were like, wow, what's going on here? This is something new, something different,
Oh yeah, that early German thrash stuff, Destruction and Creator and Sodom.
Yeah.
Those bands were more death metal than I think they realized, back then.
Absolutely.
I mean, those were like Pleasure to Kill, Savage album, Endless Pain,
God.
Savage album, Flag of Hate. I mean, those albums were just classic, man.
Right.
When Pleasure to Kill came out, that was just like
holy
that
shit.
was so fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Like
It's still brutal today if you listen to it.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
a fucking amazing album, man.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Destruction, Infernal Overkill. Oh, that's
yeah,
like just
that's
sick
another
album.
one. Sodom, In the Sign of Evil.
In the Sign of Evil, yeah. Persecution Mania, another great one. The EP,
Yeah,
all great. We could do this all night.
I know, right? Yeah.
Me too.
I know you want to like too. It's just like forget it.
Well,
Can't forget Merciful Fate too, man. Even though it's not death metal,
Yeah.
Melissa and Don't Break the
Sure,
Oath and the EP, all of that stuff. So it's hard to pick just 2. Like everything we mentioned.
Early Battery Records. Celtic
Battery. Oh
Frost,
shit, I forgot about
Yeah,
Battery.
see?
Early Voivod.
Yeah, of course,
Oh, yeah,
Voivod.
definitely.
Dark
Yeah.
Angel. Yeah,
Dark
Slayer,
Angel, Darkness
come on.
Descends. That was another,
Yeah.
not a
I
death
either
metal
get-
record, but dark and extreme,
Yes.
I either get a blank, like, oh, fuck, I'm drawing a blank, or yes, it's just a laundry list
Well,
of
the
bands.
floodgates open.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
floodgates.
Totally. See, that's why you put the restrictions. You're like, give me 2 guys, only 2.
You're like, we thought you meant 20.
We cheated.
Okay, sorry.
200. All right, so if you could bring back, like, some musicians that have passed away, who would it be?
Pete Steele. Peter Steele.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah, that dude was just fucking genius, man. Just cool
Yeah.
dude, just great stuff. Carnivore shit was epic, just he's one of those dudes who went well before his time, man.
Yeah, way too early.
Cliff Burton.
Cliff Burton.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Cliff Burton. Oh, there's so many, man. There's so many people just in our scene who we lost, in the last like 10 years, young guys,
Yeah.
It's just a shame,
Right.
The list is there's too many to list, man. Any,
Okay. What advice could you give to artists that are just trying to, like, get on the road? Like, because you guys have had years doing it.
we're very DIY, especially in the US. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess in the beginning, it was a smaller scene because there wasn't that many bands in our, genre, back in the late 80s. So we networked with bands. We would meet bands at shows, like all the local guys, whether it was Incantation or before that Revenant and Ripping
Yes.
Corpse and Primeval and all these older bands from the New York area, Profanatica. And you know, you network with these bands and, you know, you get to know them and say, hey, we're going to do a show here. You know, we'll have you guys, you know, play this show. If you guys book a show for us out in South Jersey or wherever they're from, Pittsburgh, we met a lot of people out in Pittsburgh back in the beginning, the Decatur Girls, Rotrevor, Nunslaughter. We met all these guys back in 88, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, you know, just networking with other bands is probably the best thing to do.
That's
you know,
key. And especially now with the internet. Back then there was no internet, so
you can you can get a hold of anybody.
Now it's just like great. You could, if you see a band online that you like, that's within a reasonable, you know, distance. If you're younger and trying to do a show in the next state over or something, I mean, it's so much easier now. Whereas back then it was just, you know, a different situation.
Yeah. And it's cool because then you get to do shows with bands you're friends with, bands you like. Everybody helps each other out. It's more like a brotherhood, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's a lot of camaraderie there and everybody's trying to help each other, you know, everybody else try to get to that next level. And that's kind of the atmosphere was back in the day. Wouldn't you guys say, you know, like when we first met Phobia, I mean, we were like, wow, we love you guys, man. You guys were fucking great. We did our first show down in G. Willikers with you guys. And then we eventually wound up taking them on our first U.S. tour in '92, a couple of years after that. But you know, so that's how it works. You know,
right, network.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
I find it crazy how many people ask me. They're like, "How do you get a hold of these people?" I'm like, "Dude, like that's like one of the craziest questions because it's like it's so easy to network with people." Like
absolutely.
If you
back in the 80s, we had to write letters and
write letters,
weeks and weeks for a response, you know.
Yeah.
Or,
you young kids today.
Right. Guys, in your,
but it was cool because you got you call people on the phone and you get their number and stuff through the letters and and even like Bob and Ross made a trip to Europe in what 89.
89, yeah.
You guys went over to see like Nihilist practice and
Nihilist. We saw Laurent from Peer Drop magazine, now Listenable Records, and we visited like Alex said, all the guys in Sweden, the Nihilist guys, the Dismember guys, and we went to the UK.
Guys.
Yeah, we met up with old Mick Harris, the old drummer of Napalm Death, and Barney, who was in Benediction before he was in Napalm. So we got to meet up with all these people back on that trip, and we had our friend Will from Mortician came on that trip with us. So it was like the 4 Immo guys and Will from Mortician. We just did like a 2-week thing in Europe just to meet up with people and network.
That's awesome.
Out. Yeah, it was sick. It was
dude,
cool.
I've never made it there, and that's like one goal.
Yeah,
to get to Europe,
you should go, man. It's not as daunting as you think. Just go, man. I'm sure you're in touch with people over there. I'm sure pen pals through the internet, Facebook or whatever. Yeah, hook up with some people. Go to a festival, man. That's what you should.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, since I was a kid, been a metalhead, I have not went to like a fucking festival.
You have to go, yeah.
Like it's crazy, and like. I know I'd enjoy it. I want to go to Maryland Death Fest.
You should go.
That's a good place to start for sure.
It's awesome. It's a great vibe, man. You meet people from all over the world there. And it's just such a great atmosphere. Like, I just wind up going every year just to go, regardless of who's playing. And there's always like at least 20 bands I really want to see each year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But I just go because it's just a great atmosphere. You meet so many great people year after year. It's just fun, man. You should just go, man. Just make it happen. I'm just sad it didn't happen this year.
I'll make it vacation time for work.
Yeah. And it's on a holiday weekend every year, so you're always going to have that Monday off. So, so
there we
keep
go.
that in mind.
So when it comes down to touring, what are you guys going to do differently?
You mean since the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, like, you always learn something along the way. And, like, since you guys have been doing it so long, like, is there anything different that you change since the last tour?
We kind of have it, we kind of have down the way we need to do it now for the most part, so it took a while to learn, and we've learned a lot over the past 30 some odd years. But I mean, you definitely get into a point where you're like, okay, we got a tour coming up. We know how we have to do it. We're comfortable with doing it that way. And that's the way that works the best, is the most, efficient, cost effective. And that's the way we're doing it, unless, something else happens where, like, on a couple of occasions, in the United States is mainly what I'm talking about. Because in Europe, we have a company over there in Poland, Massive Music, that sets up the tours. They have a crew, they have a bus. So
Right.
it's a great situation for us. But over here, it's mainly us in the van, and we take a couple of crew guys, and we do what we have to do to make it work. But once in a while, we've had, instances where we get together with a couple of the other bands on the tour when it's possible, and we all kind of rent a bus together, and you can try and do that. But, the past few tours, it's just we know whatever bands we're touring with, they're going to be doing their own thing. So we do our own thing, and we know how to do it. We've been doing it that way for years. So it works for us.
Right.
And we all come home with money at the end of the tour. So that's the main thing.
Yeah,
So,
There we go.
Yeah, things are done smart, I think, nowadays. And we, like Bob said, we come home with money. We don't break ourselves. And,
Right.
We
and the
work
last
for
tour
it.
we did, the last
We
tour
wor-
in the States we did went really smooth. I mean, we did what, 40 something shows,
41 shows straight.
41
days
shows
off.
straight. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It was great.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah,
mean-
I mean,
Awesome tour.
Like I was saying, we work for it though. I mean, we
Right.
work a little harder so we could come
Yeah,
home with a little
absolutely.
extra money in our pockets, because for a band like us at our level, it's not really feasible to get the nightliner and go that route. As nice as it would be, and we probably could afford it, but we would come home with zero money. So, it's like at this
Right.
point in the game, nobody could really afford to do that.
I mean, I just watched an interview. I don't know what it was. It's some video of Dave Mustaine like complaining about one of his previous members because like he wanted to go in these luxury hotels and shit. I thought it was the funniest thing. Like on tour.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
this last tour was like really the first tour in a long time that we actually have hotels like almost every other night. Because usually we're like in that van driving like maniacs, just kind of staying at rest
Right.
stops. But this tour, like, you know what? We're not like in our 20s anymore.
Well, the good thing about this last tour, which is kind of like we learned, it's the one thing we did learn from this last tour, is that the fact that we had so many dates and so many dates in a row, it enabled us to have shows that were fairly closer together.
Yes.
Which
There you go.
gave us,
Yeah.
shorter drives, a better route, and
Playing every day. That's
Yeah.
the way to go. You know?
Right.
Absolutely. Oh, Bob froze up. Bob, you froze up for a second. But no. But yeah, so actually we did learn
2017
from the last
we
tour.
did.
There we go.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Great.
It was like we were just driving for hours and hours. Like every show was like almost 8 to 10 hours apart. Like almost every night, it was ridiculous. So that's one thing we definitely learned was, make a tour that's got more dates on it. This way you can kind of tighten things up and make it an easier run for yourself, especially when you're in a van. It
Yeah,
makes
instead
a
of
lot more
doing,
sense.
7-hour drives across
yeah.
like, New York from Rochester or some crazy shit.
Well, we we learned that having a good routing, definitely a tight routing with shorter distances is definitely the way to go. Like our first tour in '92, we booked ourselves, and we had some crazy drives, and we learned a good lesson.
I remember.
Back then. Yeah, Alex remember. Alex was on that tour with
Yeah.
us. Yeah. We had one drive from like where were we? Like El Paso to like San Diego. Or
No,
something?
it was Rhode Island all the way to Miami.
Oh yeah, that no doubt. But I'm talking about the night Bob fell asleep and
I
we
know what
almost
you're talking
fucking wiped out on the road. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
we
was like
had
a
like,
15-hour ride we had. Yeah.
We had like
Wow.
a 15 or 12-hour ride the night before, which I did most of. So we got to the show, and the show was in Texas somewhere. It might have been El Paso. Like
I
you
think it
said.
was El Paso. Yeah.
And it was one of those shows where you got there pretty early, and literally by the time the show was done, it was a late show, and we were on the way out. It was like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And that's late. And then we started going, and I'll never forget. Ross is like, I'm like, you good to drive? He's like, yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about it. So Ross gets behind the wheel. I'm in the passenger seat because we're all sitting up. It's like a 9-passenger van with two bands in it. So we go down the road within like an hour. I see he's falling asleep. He's like, yo, you got to take over. You got to take over. I'm like, all right. Because I slept maybe like 2 hours and like
They drove the whole way.
days, So then I get behind the wheel. I'm like, all right, I should be okay. And then I'm like going, man, next thing I know, I'm looking at the highways over to my right. I'm going over like tumbleweeds up in the median.
No
Oh,
shit.
God.
No
And I'm
shit.
like, what the hell? And I just turned. I got back on the highway. We came to like a screeching halt. Ross and I turned around. Everyone else was still sleeping. There was no damage to the van. We got lucky that, there was no guardrail or anything. We went right off the road, and we're just driving off the road in the median for a couple of minutes. And then I woke up
Yeah.
and we went back on.
Luckily, it was Texas, man,
Yeah.
where they have those big flat median, so we just kind of dipped off, and it was all like just like desert and like
Yeah.
tumbleweeds and shit. Yeah, it was no joke.
I
Yeah,
can just
otherwise,
imagine.
Our
Yeah.
career would have been much shorter, really.
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, tighter routing, you know, more shows, less of the longer
And-
drives. That makes Immo a happy band.
And more sleep. More sleep is always important.
Sleep.
So keep that in mind.
Sleep.
Mostly.
Mostly.
So, are you mainly the one guy that drives, or do you guys all like alternate?
Ross and I pretty much, we go half and half on that.
Also, night guy. Bob's a morning guy. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we set it up that way because at least we know when we're both going to sleep. You know what I mean? Otherwise, if you're taking turns and just at random, then you're both fucked as far as getting sleep. So at least
Yeah.
we know what shift we got, and we just make it happen, and it works out. It works out great actually, especially like I said on the last tour, the way
Yeah.
the drives were it was fine. We were like no problem.
It was a
Living
pleasure.
the dream,
'Cause
kids.
It was a
Living the dream.
pleasure. Totally. Before we looked into getting a more stepped up vehicle for this last U.S. tour, because we knew it was going to be a long one with no days off. So we're like, let's try to travel in style. Not a bus. It was like like one of those extended vans with bunks in it, but it didn't work out price wise. So we were like, all right, back to square one. So we wound up taking the 15-passenger van, and we kind of customize it ourselves, and we build bunks in the back. So like you could sleep 6 people comfortably in the back of that van. So we do it right, but honestly on this tour, we were so lucky because of the short rides, and we had hotels just about every night. We only really had about maybe 3 or 4 nights on that whole run where we were looking at like a 7 or more hour ride, and that was like very, very minimal amount of time. So we got very lucky. And I got to say, going into this tour, I was really like not looking forward to that. I was like, this is going to be a gruel. But man, after the first week, we were like, wow, this is not
it was
too
easy.
Party.
Yeah,
It was easy.
It was really. And then we went to Europe right after that, where we had a nightliner. So we got spoiled over there. So we kind of ended on the highest note.
yeah, exactly. It was a good thing we started that one first, because prior to that we had all those tours in Asia and Australia, and we were flying around like every night, so we were like shot. So by the time the U.S. tour started, to do that, at least we ended the year in Europe where we just got to relax and have a bus and a crew and didn't have to do anything but sleep, eat, and get on stage. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so what should we expect next? Like new album, or are you just planning on touring and stuff?
Yep.
Well, right now we're like 10 songs written for the new record. We're trying to write a little bit more, and it's because of everything that's going on. We don't know exactly when we'll be able to get on the road. So the main goal now is to just get the album recorded, find the best time to release it, and keep writing. You know what I mean? Just keep trying to write some stuff for the next record following this one. Try and get ahead of the game, because once things start up again late next year, it's going to be like the floodgates are going to open, and
Right, and
you wanna be on the
everybody's
road,
gonna be
constantly.
touring, man. Everybody.
Yeah.
I-
So we're just like Bob said, just got a bunch of songs now. Material is definitely Immo. It's dark. It's really strong. It's definitely got that Atonement vibe, but I think much darker. So
Darker.
yeah, I think we're all really happy with the new material, and it's nice because we don't have to rush. We're taking our time. We're really just creating the best we can for this next album cycle. That's what we're trying to do. So
Right. So, are you thinking the production is going to be dead on from the newest release?
I think so, because we've already done like 3 or 4 rounds with Zach, so he knows us really well. He knows what we're aiming for, and each, when you work with a producer long enough, each record
It develops,
after the first one, they kind of lock in better with what you were looking for. So I think Zach is already, at that point with us. So now it's just a matter of fine tuning anything we need to fine tune, but it should be, a strong one like the last one, hopefully,
Fuck yeah. So, as a guitar player, I'm curious if you do this in the writing stages. Do you have a massive riff folder?
You could say that. I mean, pretty much I have a timeline and I create riffs, and then in my program I can basically create drums for it from scratch. So I'll create a riff that I like, I'll record it to a metronome, and then I'll create a drum beat for it that I feel best works with that riff, and then it just gets put to the side, and I move on to the next one. That's kind of how I do it until something maybe, I find a riff that I'm like, yeah, I could develop a song around this. This riff is something that, speaks to me in a way that's like, yeah, this is like a main part right here. And then I try and build it from there, So it's just a constant building process. But yeah, I just go riff by riff and then try and piece stuff together. And then once I get one song, you just keep going to the next song. And that's the way I do it. I mean,
well, I'm always curious on that because, like, I've lost so many riffs because I just never fucking did any pre-production. I was like, I don't remember it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Famous last words.
I know, exactly. I mean,
if I don't hit record, I don't remember that shit 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know. I mean, I'll have it recorded, but then sometimes if it's an old riff from like whatever last year or whatever, whenever it made its way to the timeline, I have to like relearn it. I got to listen to it because I haven't gotten to that habit yet of like videotaping every riff I do.
Me neither. No.
Which is a good thing because then there's no question. But I have to listen to it and try and figure it out again. Some of them, some of the more involved ones, but. Yeah, it's never a matter of not remembering. For me, it's a matter of like, okay, great, I got like 200 riffs, and I'll listen to one and be like, yeah, that's not that good. And I'll listen, yeah, that's not good. So I'll have a bunch of them, but I'll go back and listen to them and be like, yeah, that's all right. Well, that one sounds like the last four I just did, So
yeah.
You get a lot of kind of like repeat things in the sense of, what you were going for. You come up with stuff. Naturally, that might sound the same because you're constantly trying to come up with stuff. So I'll go back and listen to stuff and be like, that one's great, but these other 5 that sound just like that one I could scrap, So
right.
It's just the way it is.
All right. Well, yeah, that's all I really got. I mean, at the end, I just let you talk whatever you want. If you want to like promote anything that's coming up, go for it.
Nah, I mean, right now we're looking forward to getting together and rehearsing. I mean, we haven't been able to do that because we're all in different states. I mean, Ross and I are in New York, but Alex is in Delaware and Steve's in Ohio. So because of the pandemic, we really haven't been able to get together. We almost thought we were going to be able to, but then each state has their own list of states you're not supposed to go to, and et cetera.
Yeah.
So it's been difficult, and both those states were off, but they're now back on the list. So hopefully in the next month or so, we'll be able to at least start getting together and working on the new stuff in person. But, we've been able to work on stuff separately, which is fine. Like Steve has the songs, the pre-production, so he's working on his own. And then, we just look forward to getting together and working on it together, though, because that's something we miss, playing together as a unit. And really, for the first time in a long time, working on new music together at rehearsal prior to going to the studio, because the past 10 years or whatever it was, we would just do it this way with the pre-production. Steve would learn the songs on his own. We kind of go back and forth, with emails and stuff, with listening to some stuff that he works on and stuff. And we meet in the studio, and we never play the songs together ever until we're like playing them live for the first time, So this is going to be, something we haven't done in years, which is actually not only do we have pre-production now, but we're going to get together and do like a live pre-production, so we can really get the feel of the songs before getting in there.
Right. Yeah, it's
just,
a whole different...
iron out if there's stuff that we, this is great, but maybe we get together and we're like, yeah, actually it'd be better if I'm feeling this. Maybe this part doesn't need to be that long, et cetera. So that I think you only get from just being together and learning the songs together and playing them together, getting that feel that we get when we play them at the shows before we record them, which is something new for us in a while.
Yeah, it's a whole different atmosphere, I was just talking about that yesterday of like tube amps versus freaking like effects processors. Like music is the same way. It's like if it doesn't interact with the crowd, it's a little bit difficult. So but yeah, I'm fucking stoked that this happened. I only thought that like 2 of you are coming. So
well, we almost had Steve.
We almost had the whole band.
But it was very last minute because you emailed the other day, and then I realized we didn't get back to you. So I figured, all right, let me find out when he wants to do this. And then you had already contacted Alex, so it was set up for tonight. So I'm like, all right. So Ross and I was easy, and then Steve, I got in touch with him today, but I don't think he was able to make it just because it was last minute. But he almost
it's
had
all
it for us.
There we go. Hell yeah.
So,
well,
thanks. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
man. Thanks for dealing with our technical failures and being very patient. I appreciate